Hey everyone, this is Rodrigo Cardoso, and we're gonna talk about lead glazed pottery. This is Fundamentals of Environmental Health Data Assignment, part of the CUNY School of Public Health, spring 2016. Let's dive right into it. So the main objective of this presentation is to explore the topic of lead glazed pottery and the impact it has on communities. Lead glaze has been present many hundreds of years in human civilization. The reason why lead pottery is dangerous is because when you artisanally made it and do not use the appropriate materials and techniques, the heat doesn't reach the capacity to seal completely this lead glaze, and through abrasion or through heat, it can release the lead it has in it. So the FDA has released some warnings of the possibility of this pottery still be present in some shelves, and population needs to be remain aware of the implications of it. We also have seen recent effects of the exposure to lead in the crisis of Flint, Michigan. We'll further discuss later on some of the complications of it. The table of contents for today is one. We're going to explore how lead poisoning occurs, where are the sources, and what happens and what are the effects on health. We're going to go through blood levels and trends in the US. We're also going to go through some expected blood levels in Mexico. We're going to see some subgroup of exposure within Mexico population, final summary and references. I'm also gonna leave you a link to John Oliver's lead presentation that I found really instructive for people that want to go through all the material. Also in reference section, all the materials will be disclosed, and they can further explore that also. I borrowed this graph from 2010 OMS childhood lead poisoning report, and the reason I do it is because it explains really clearly how the exposure happens. There are three main pathways. One is through ingestion, the other one is inhalation, and dermatological contact of the exposures, especially in this case lead. As far as inhalation, lead paint, that's a really big one and is still present in the US. Lead gasoline, that was really important in Mexico, and we're going to explain further how was the impact and how the trends have changed, and lead gasoline has been banned in Mexico and other countries also. Industrial activities that work with lead, burning of waste like battery, lead batteries that are being recycled not really carefully can also be a source of danger through this. Some cosmetics used to have lead and still do in some places. Traditional remedies in developing countries, traditional medicines in developing countries also can be ingested. Fruits, either through soil contaminants or others. Lead pipes, like in the case of Flint, Michigan. Lead toys, like in the case of the lead that we can see. These toys that were carefully selected don't have they have lead painting in them, and that way the exposure can happen. And obviously the topic of the lead glaze pottery, as we explained before, the temperature and the abrasion effect of lead pottery itself. There are several effects on health itself of the exposure. Gastrointestinal are anorexia, nausea, vomiting, and can be real difficult. And the central nervous system, they can produce encephalopathy, lack of concentration, lower IQ, especially in children when it's through really early stages of development. Musculoskeletal, they can produce shortness of height and some other growth problems. As we can see in the at the right, we can see some of the marks lead leaves in the bones when it's absorbed, especially by children. Same thing on this MRI on the left, we can see some severe encephalopathy, ventricular encephalopathy due to lead exposure. We are seeing in the middle of the presentation the U.S. trends for U.S. For blood lead levels. That's one of the measurements that's mainly used in research to find the levels of lead um, within our population, and we're here using enhanced information. It's a really complex and really informative survey that is done in the US to trying to identify dangers, and we can see that through really careful design policy we have reached really good goals as far as the mean blood lead levels that for population in the US. But once we compare it to the Mexico case, and Mexico, we can see that they don't have that good outcomes. And Mexico's case also has a really big characteristic that it was that in the 70s and 80s, before the ban of lead gasoline, they had really high and toxic levels of air, lead in the air, and that raised really big eyebrows. And gladly they banned it by now, and they have also improved some other policies also. But the danger remains, and you can see that they have 4 times the mean blood lead level that has on the US. Unfortunately, they do not have complex surveys like the enhanced survey, so we're using some estimations from cohorts that have been done, especially in the city of Mexico. They are trying to find a main blood lead level and try to adequate it, but they can hardly be generalizable, and they can be either misrepresenting some of the characteristics, but they still informative as far as this presentation goes. Meta-analysis that were released in 2014 have estimated that the effect that especially people that were born a little earlier that are now adults had on their main blood lead levels and through occupational hazards have a higher blood levels mean compared to prenatal infants. That's a great achievement, and it speaks to to how the policies are working, but it's still present, right? It's still high. So in Mexico, you can see that the prevalence also has a really linked to occupational hazards. Again, we're talking about these people that work in lead battery recycling and doing this pottery and other sources of lead exposure. Again, we're also seeing some correlation with it on the higher blood lead levels of males that work in these factories or in these places, and also clear distribution, more concentrated in the rural areas. No surprise there. So, as a summary, lead poisoning through glazed pottery is an important and relevant health topic and requires understanding of the root causes, social root causes, prevalent in developing countries, and why this is happening. The lead affects children and has a high prevalence within Mexican population, and it's a dangerous exposure. The effects of lead in health are highly expensive to a health system and should be prevented. Another important fact is the meta-analysis we mentioned before has estimated that more than 800,000 people have been exposed to dangerous levels of lead in Mexico, and that's a huge part of the country. These are some of the references. So thank you for your time, and again, I'm gonna leave you the link for the general video at the comment section of the YouTube channel, and anyone feel free to raise some questions, and we can further discuss some of the topics, and thank you for your attention.